just like a short winter time, because I'm not pretty much like flu and that.
Yeah, we tried to hike Sleeping Bear Dunes. We made it to the second peak. There's 8 total before you get up.
What's
Your
up?
5K walk, you made it halfway.
Yeah.
Should we turn on?
I can't hear a thing from in front of me.
Yeah, you can.
I'll just tell you. Should we turn it
I
off?
think you just turn the volume down.
Oh, okay.
It's like elevator music.
Well, it's like right here, it's like I can barely hear you. You guys are all like mumbling.
That's all you heard.
Yeah.
Sound machine.
And maybe it will go like beep, beep, that beep, beep, call centers.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:33. Approval of minutes from May. Anybody have any questions, concerns, comments? Is it a mouse present? Jessica Lynch present?
Julie Tack present.
Kelly Hunt Vanderleet. Suzanne Radzik.
Minutes? Okay, I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, meeting minutes approved. And then financials?
Financials, okay, hi everyone.
What do you want me to put up?
No, we don't have to. I mean, we don't have to,
It's easy.
it's easy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, let's wait till we get to June. Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
okay,
May-
June ready.
I'll cover May quickly, we have to do May and June. May, we were able to pay, a large amount of bonuses and stipends to our favorable financial position. You can see that in the elementary line for May, it's over budget by 115,000. So consequently, in May, we lost 159,000. But it was, yeah, it was as a result of our favorable position in being able to pay more bonuses and stipends. So May, still finishing good financial cash position, everything good. And then, of course, I'll get to June, which is the end of our fiscal year. And that I wanted to put up just to bring a couple numbers to life. And are you gonna do that thing?
Hey, yeah, I'm trying to remember how to do it on the computer.
Like new.
What's the shortcut? Didn't you do the dismissal? To make it show. Just another reason why I don't come work.
It should never pops right up if you plug it in. Should get it now.
How's it gonna work?
So good.
I failed you, Alan. I
All right, no.
I was gonna say, it
There we go.
It's a big
Should
deal.
just-
I had it plugged in before I was still turning.
I'm not,
on.
I wasn't prepared, I should have been prepared to do that. I thought it'd be good at the end of the year, just to highlight a few things.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, well, great, all right. So,
Yeah.
very good. So you see, first of all, these are draft, it's the 13th of July, and we still have transactions that we're reconciling, and she's still working on the Form 9, which I'll comment about later. So these will be audited, and so they are draft, and it'll change a little bit, but not much, so. Okay, great, obviously, good. All right, very good. All right, so here, we finished with over $1 million in cash, very good. Excellent, in fact. And so here's our repair and replacement fund, which we're drawing down here. It goes up to 2,025 grand. We're going to draw down 25 grand for the parking lot.
It'll only be like 15 or 16.
Okay, all right.
We'll-
so
we'll sit on the rest
That's
of it.
ours that we take every month, every year and move it up to here. Okay, so then, move down further, no fixed asset additions there. This is fine, keep going. All right, so the payables are gonna increase, payables are still coming in for June, so, that means the net income, which we'll get to in a minute, will go down. Here's, of course, is our big debt numbers, 6,470,000. And the Indiana loan, so that's what we pay interest only on. If you multiply that by 7.25%, you'll see the interest expense on the P&L, so I'll get to in a minute. This is our surplus for the year is now 347,000. which increased our net equity here, which will make all our debt to equity ratios much better, and all the evaluators of our financial statements will love that. So this was a successful year. Let's go to P&L. And, okay, so this is a P&L for the year. We're pretty close on, oh no, I'm sorry, this is June. June was a break-even month. Let's go to for the entire year, so in case everybody falls asleep.
Can we
So-
get a little bigger? I
Yep.
can't see it.
Yeah.
I didn't print that one, sorry.
So again, this is our what, 12th year, 12th fiscal year.
End of the 12th year.
In the 12th year. And here we are, budget's up to $5.5 million almost, we're $230,000 over budget. We had some anomalies in the year. We had school lunch here, we had an offset for, go down a little bit, please. So school lunch fees, which we didn't collect any because the government paid for everything, we had not budgeted that amount. So if you net these two, and there's a cafeteria expense on the P&L, which I'll point out before, we made like $50,000 in lunch fees, net 50. We're not supposed to be able to do that, but there's an anomaly with, lunch is being paid for totally by the government. Okay, so, keep going down, we're over budget a little bit, by the way, again, down, thank you. PAC gave us $100,000, tremendous year, we budgeted 25, that's gonna be add to our favorable outcome here at the end. Okay, let's go. All right, so here, we're able to, again, the elementary bonuses, right here, we're over budget by $140,000. We were able to pay a lot of unbudgeted stipends and bonuses because of our financial position. So, go all the way to the bottom now. And so this year, we were able to enjoy a surplus of about $347,500. Okay, that's a positive. And we budgeted about $300. So due to a couple things, the tax contribution, we had an exceptional year. That's a very strong year. But I wanted to highlight this and note a word of caution, is that included in here, which we had anticipated as part of our budgeted surplus, is $507,000 PPP loan, right? So that hit our income statement in this fiscal year. Clearly, if you subtract that from this, we were able to pay a lot of expenses that we wouldn't have been able to pay otherwise. If you subtract that from this, we would have a negative, a deficit. So this means we have to be careful going forward. We're not likely to duplicate this year again. This is an anomaly. We don't know what's out there. Still grants, they seem to find us every once in a while, but
Well, we still have ERTC on the horizon.
right, sure, ERTC is a huge
And
number.
the next
Nobody
round of
knows anything
CFIG,
about
which they are still getting guidance on from federal
it. Right.
branch.
Yeah, so it'd be nice, but we're not likely to duplicate this year again. And this will be good for all our, like I say, independent observers of our financial statements. But without the PPP loan, we wouldn't have had the exceptional spending that we had. We'd have had a break even or, modest deficit month. And this is the number that, as we go forward here to the, by the way, this number right here, the interest, Huntington Bond, well, it's really not Huntington Bond. The Huntington Bank is the trustee, as we discussed earlier. That right there is 7.25% of $6,470,000. So that is what will go up. That except for our labor costs, that's the biggest number on the P&L. So that's our interest leverage that is really high for us. But that is what goes in 3.5 years to principal and interest, and goes up $12,000 a month. So that's our financial hurdle on the horizon at the 10-year mark for the bonds, which is I think January 1st of 2026. That goes up $12,000 a month. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to this is our depreciation expense, of course, which we cover nicely. We have to going forward, it's important that this doesn't go negative.
So the extra money from this year, not that it's extra, but is it just like sitting in the account or is it
What's that?
like the,
PPP?
no, like the 48,000?
48,000.
Yeah, the bottom, the net income.
Well, that's a variance from the budget.
Right.
Oh, this right here?
So
Oh,
that's like
yeah,
the
that, we
extra-
were above budget for the year, above our budgeted surplus by 48,000.
Right, so like the bug money, because we weren't anticipating it, does that like just sit in the account? Or is that money that we could like take out and put into a shorter term, higher interest?
That's a different question, this really, it really is, a function of the whole balance sheet
Yeah.
and,
That's not the cash net.
Yeah,
no,
it's
not.
it's saying that was the difference on this year's budget sheet, right?
Right.
So it's not actually extra cash? Is that what?
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't translate into extra cash that we could just put away. We have $1,018,000 in cash that we, and we're drawing down, we're transferring another 25 into the operating account. So, you know, we have cash that we can,
Yeah, Alan, look, that was on page 1.
yeah, the balance sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I go too far?
So I guess my
Right there.
whole,
No, that's
so-
the liability.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so this is essentially like our rainy day fund, right? That's cash in the bank that we have.
What we need, the million.
Yeah, that's,
18, well, that's operating cash.
Right.
That's our CD, which is nothing, you know, our development account and, the food account.
But I think, Lisa, I think I know where you're going with that. Is there an opportunity to invest partial?
Well,
in a short term?
it's come up periodically. Do we stretch for safe yield someplace else? I think with interest rates rising, we should look for a better yielding
Could
CD.
you do like CD ladders so that
CD
they?
ladders, something
turn
like
over?
that. Yeah, I think it's time to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, the,
Well, because
That
every
is-
3 months then you gonna have the liquidity if you need it, but at least you'll make something.
we should now, especially with rates going up. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
they're gonna
see
go up again
attractive-
in September.
attractive- I wouldn't suggest anything other than a CD
No,
or a laddered CD, 6 months, a year, or something like
but
that.
anything, like even if it's 1 or 2%, it's better than.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
exactly.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's
this
a good
is still
idea.
earning, which I'll look into, that's still earning at 200, it's earning 20 basis points.
I've looked into it too, and you can get better rates online
Yeah.
with banks. Chase won't have the best rates.
No.
Because right now, I've seen it, like a couple weeks ago, I saw 3% online.
Yeah. But all of
I'd
that's
go
not gonna be
even more
CD,
in the
maybe
next one.
300,000 being CD. So if you make 1%, it's $3,000. 2% is $6,000, it's better than what we're doing now.
Yeah,
But it's not gonna be the whole million.
Right.
Right. We have to stay more, within that. All right, so that's it. It was a great year by any standard. So, it's just we have to be careful in the next few years to keep positive operating results.
Did you say the PPP loan income was budgeted?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
budgeted.
it was?
Yeah, go down further, to the P&L,
I didn't remember that,
to the year to date.
because I don't remember.
Oh, up further. This is just June, sorry, no, keep going. Keep going. Okay, here you go. Yeah, see, this, the PPP loan 507 was budgeted.
You did budget, okay.
507. Yeah, it was budgeted, as was the, Keystone Quality.
Right. Okay,
So, yeah, those were in the budget. So that's why we had a budgeted surplus.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that.
22, we have a little budgeted surplus as well. I mean, ending June 23.
Yeah, if you do the math on the PPP loan, I mean, we're at a large deficit. So,
Yeah. You mean without it?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but again.
we also would have done some of those extra.
Right, we had a lot of extraordinary
Yeah.
spending that we did
it's
because
because
of
of
it.
it.
So we have a small deficit or break even at best without it. Sure, that's my point.
Yeah, I'm
And the
just
tax, the
agreeing.
tax contribution too, 75 grand this year, that was up here for the. Yeah, so that, we budgeted that at 25, and so we get 75 as a result of the excellent efforts.
Yeah, it's great.
And, so that, all added to, really a banner year,
Mhm.
somewhat artificial. Not because it's of operating results necessarily.
Well,
But it's not
the
unusual.
PAC money's always a wash though,
Business
because it comes in and goes out, so it came in June, but it's going out in
That's why
July and
we
August.
moved the accounts together, right, so the development account is just under all of this now.
So some are, but that's not uncommon in the business world.
Oh, no,
I mean, a lot of people are looking
Yeah, we're in
pretty good
this, yeah,
because of,
yes.
government.
So this was.
No, I know,
Large
we're,
yes.
I mean, we're having the
Right.
same
But now it's down to
discussion,
17.
like, don't get too excited. You have to sustain this now.
All right, so that's fun.
All right.
Get your laser pointer next time.
Oh, here's the payables. If there's any questions, I'll circulate these both, May and June.
How much to approve the payables and financials?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Financials and payables are approved for May and June. Any comments? And then COVID.
So per ESSER, since we received ESSER funding, we have to continue with having some sort of COVID response plan. And so I worked on that with our new principal, Mrs. Weller, and Nurse Burt. And basically it just picks up where we left things off at the end of last year. A little bit of difference in terms of the formatting, but basically it's kind of the simplistic form of where we left off last year. And then, of course, leaving us room to make adjustments as needed should something arise. So that was in the documents there for you all. Any questions or thoughts? And as Lisa and I said, so we'll have to review that every 6 months. So we'll review it again in December going into January, if not sooner, or January. But like I said, if the need arises, we can always revisit it.
Any questions? Someone want a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve COVID 2022-2023 response plan update.
I'll second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Alright, so that is approved.
And then we'll get that added to the website.
Awesome. And then, so mileage reimbursement. So I was listening to another board meeting and they were approving like the mileage reimbursements for staff. And I think that we do that for trips, but not for like the day-to-day, like if people are going to professional development close by, or for our coaches, or like to go to games or Coffee Creek or whatever. And just with gas prices and all that stuff going up, I think it's important that nobody's taking a hit by volunteering to coach. So I think all staff should be able to submit a expense report with mileage on it.
Sure. Volunteers, that's a different story.
Yeah, I think it should just be staff and,
Like paid.
yeah,
Pay people, yeah.
like salary.
Well, I think it's
No,
important
anyone.
also to be clear that it's for things that they were assigned to, not just maybe things that they were choosing.
Correct. And it can't be like if they leave home and go to professional development, you're technically supposed to subtract the
The
commuting
distance from
amount.
school.
Yeah.
'cause
Their
if you were-
normal commute.
Correct. Yeah. So it'd be anything beyond that normal. Yeah.
So if everyone's okay with it, then maybe we could work on a policy or something, put it together, or. you
Just let them
Yeah.
know in a form.
Alan, could
and-
Kiki
Yeah.
maybe put together like the
Yeah.
spreadsheet that would be required?
Yeah,
And then
sure.
maybe we could work backwards from that once we know what the expectation is,
Sure.
and then we can work on the language too.
All right.
So I can work with Kiki on that.
Yeah,
Good.
that won't be too hard.
No.
Okay, any other questions or anything like that? Awesome. And then.
What if the staff, is it ever, I just know so many staff volunteer for stuff, is it ever, a staff member volunteering for something?
You can't.
I think
online,
it
you
would,
can't
I think
have
it should
business
just
to
be,
do
Okay,
it,
that's
if
what I-
they're like assigned, like a head coach, even like just the head coach, I feel like should be able to, but I don't want people to not do stuff because that's a factor, and not that they would, but they also should be penalized.
They're definitely staff.
I'm
I'm not sure what I think about.
But it has to be a paid
Volunteer.
commitment.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
mean, we have a lot of staff
No,
that are
I-
parents and stuff too, so I feel like if they're volunteering. Does that sound?
I just wanted clarity. I'm just-
Yeah, we can work on the verbiage, like I said, and then refine it.
Yeah.
Domestic partnership policy.
Yeah, so this came up kind of loosely in the past, as Lisa and I had talked about kind of things to make sure we're kind of current with policies. And then as we were going through the insurance renewal this year, James, our broker, brought it up and asked if we had a formalized policy because Anthem is open to it, but only if the employer has a policy okaying domestic partnership on insurance coverage. But we don't. And so the policy committee worked on some drafts of what we thought this would look like, shared it with Monica. Monica okayed it, and so those documents were in the board folder. And so basically it lays out that the domestic partnership requirements of living together at least 12 months. There are different ways that they can prove that they were living together. And then also part of that is if for whatever reason the domestic partnership ended, it would be the responsibility of the employee to notify the employer in a timely manner, so that way the coverage can be resolved. So the employer isn't still paying for someone who's no longer eligible. And then as part of that, then they would have to sign and submit an affidavit saying that this information and the situation is true and accurate. So those documents are there, and we just wanted to put it out there to see if there was questions. So this is a new policy, so this would simply be a first read to address questions, concerns, thoughts, and then we can move forward if the board is in agreement in the next meeting to potentially vote for it.
Is 12 months pretty standard in other policies?
Yeah, those are the samples he
That's
sent
what it
us, was
says,
12 months.
Is that their rule?
Anthem does not have a rule, no.
Okay.
But those were some of the samples.
Those make sense.
Those were the ones that he kind of saw, and even talking with Monica, that was kind of the number that popped up in her head before seeing it. And I think even when we were discussing it, that was the number the working group thought, and then seeing it in the samples too. That way it just wasn't kind of a brand new thing, and all of a sudden, we know there was some commitment there, I guess, for lack of a better word. Civility maybe is the better word.
I'm not opposed to the idea of it at all, but because we think it's in the budget and staff, I think it's good to include that.
I think our concern was just making sure the employee, or the employers, we weren't being taken advantage of, and I think
Yeah.
the pieces we have in place account for that.
Okay.
So if you guys haven't looked at it, you guys just want to look it over for the next meeting, and then we'll vote to approve it for the next meeting for any changes. Okay, any questions? And then a background check policy.
Title IX was the next one.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So Title IX is a new policy. It's a long one. There's a blurb in both of the handbooks that kind of summarizes it. The full policy kind of outlines the whole process if there's a Title IX complaint. Spent some considerable time with one of Monica's colleagues, and we found a sample online that was pretty thorough, and then we kind of made the modifications to make it applicable to us. So again, the policy working group looked at it. We feel okay about it. Like I said, Monica's colleague worked on it with us. So if there's any questions, you can bring them up now. If you still need to read through it more a second time, third time, whatever the case may be, you can send those to us because this is just the first presentation of the policy. So it wouldn't be up for vote until the August meeting.
Can we approve the handbook then?
Yeah.
If there's a word in it?
Yeah, because it's just a summary referencing that we have this we will have this policy in place, so. The blurb basically just directs them to the official policy if they have more questions.
Why is it new? I mean, Title IX's been around a lot.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, we didn't have a formal
Didn't have-
document in place.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And then
Background.
So there was an additional requirement added in addition to the extensive fingerprint background check for staff and the same background check you all as board members have to complete. Employees have to, a DCS background check has to also be conducted to make sure that there isn't any sort of open child abuse or child endangerment case against an individual. So it's another piece that has to be completed. It does not cost us anything. But like the background check, it has to be done every 5 years. So that has been added, and then we also kind of pulled apart the background check as it used to just be in the student handbook, just to make it as a standalone document. So the only change was the addition of the verbiage that we will also be doing the DCS background check as well. And so with this being new for us, we will have all staff do it the week of PD week. Because it does take about 15 minutes. And so there's a piece that the employer does, a piece that the employee has to do also. And
It's
in
not a
sense,
friendly form.
it's not.
No.
You guys have to use it too?
Yeah. I can't tell you how many got returned. You forgot this little box. It's like-
Yeah,
you're like,
and
what
they want like address history back to 1988.
Yeah, what county? It's a pain.
So
I wouldn't
it's,
even know.
I couldn't either, yeah. So we tested it on myself and Jen Little to start with. And so we'll implement that for all staff this year, and then we'll track it just like we do for the other background checks.
Is that something we should do for the board too? We didn't talk about.
I'll look at it a little more further and see if it needs to be included for the board too. I'll just ask Monica what she thinks.
I mean, that's when I had to have my whole breast.
So since this isn't brand new, we're just updating the background check policy. I mean, I'm fine with us just approving that change today, if everyone's in agreement.
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That was approved. And then student handbook.
Student handbook has been shared. Nothing too significant. We cleaned up some of the verbiage about uniforms, and then just finding random typographical mistakes that we always miss every year or get lost in the shuffle.
There was one more that was drawn to my attention that I don't think any of us caught under the uniforms, I think it was. It says boat instead of boot.
Okay.
Label your boats, if it's
But so I think some of the errors that the two of you submitted, I think were just maybe formatting
There was
from what you were
yeah,
looking
there was
at.
nothing.
Because some of the ones that you sent, they were fine on my end.
Okay.
So it may have just been the view depending on how you were looking at it on your computer, so some of the formatting ones.
Did you use paper?
But there were some corrections.
However, it convert, we both have Macs,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
convert.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, these are my comments, I don't know if it,
And I was like, how did we not notice these before?
that's what I said, I go.
But there were some handy pages from just some of the formattings, and then after all of that, then I went back and fixed the pages on the table of
Yeah.
contents like I always do.
Yeah.
Did you guys add anything about securely? Like, do you think that should be in there?
No, I don't know that it's necessary. We could review it this year and see if it's something that's necessary, but at the moment, I think it is. And so since that's just an update, it's fine to be approved tonight.
A motion to approve the student handbook. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, student handbook approved. I think we would turn it back to.
Yeah.
How do I stop?
I think just the phone button. Yeah.
I hate like,
Okay, the employee handbook.
The only major change here, the significant change, was we added additional verbiage on the hourly employees. We have increased that a little bit, and we put some pieces and information in place, just to make sure that we've got the pieces in place in the event we need to take some sort of action on an employee who isn't living up to their expectation. So that was a significant change.
It's not necessarily for that, but did you guys talk about like the lactation room?
So there's, there's not one designated one, it just kind of depends on schedules and what's available. But yes, a room will be made available
And then I know
for
we had talked
whatever
about like a
individual.
fridge and stuff before.
Yeah, so
Okay. Electrician.
usually administration will work with whoever is in need and figure out an agreeable place and location.
Just to make sure. it's-
Right.
there's
Yeah,
not-
just because depending on time, it may not work in one room, but it might work in another room based on people's schedules, so.
And then the bereavement leave.
I fixed,
Part
I
of it, yeah,
fixed
okay.
those, yeah.
Okay, we're back on it. So all the other stuff.
Yep. Went back and cleaned up those areas.
Motion to approve the employee handbook. Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Employee handbook approved. And then
Superintendent goals will table until our board retreat. And then, schedule a board meeting. Did you guys all get in to go look at those? Any conflicts?
Is it the same day and time? I mean, it's the same.
I think
For
it's-
the most part.
For the most part, it's the
I
third,
think
third
there's
Wednesday of every
There's
month.
one Tuesday because of fall break.
Oh, I'm sure it's fine.
So then we'll motion to approve the board dates.
I'll second.
All in favor? Sorry. And then we'll go on to the school report.
Well, the only other item under approval, that wasn't in discussion is just the personnel report. So, remember, so in our efforts to just kind of making sure we're where we need to be going, in discussing things further with Monica, we have been sharing the personnel report with the board, but she said in good practice, it's still good to have it on the agenda to be consented. Approved, I'm sorry. So it's there now on the agenda and we'll be going forward for you to formally accept the personnel report.
Okay. And we did talk about, did you ask her about, doing that with financials together?
Yeah, and so she, in her opinion, it makes most sense and it makes things more simplistic to just have a consent item on the agenda and in one motion, then you're consenting minutes, financials, personnel report.
I was just gonna mention that.
So that would,
Are we doing that?
we can,
If everybody's okay with it?
right. As I'm sure you all have seen some of the approval processes and board approval with schools, it can be very tricky and messy and it's just, it doesn't make sense because as a board, you hire the superintendent to oversee all that.
Right.
So then to make that another step can be sometimes just make things more challenging and tricky. So, I mean, that's I don't understand why that's even a step that needs to be taken. But
I'm
It
in
is
favor
what
of
it
a
is.
consent agenda for things that are, we can review and are not discussed.
yeah, it would be like those constant things that are on every agenda.
Yeah.
So minutes, personnel report, financials. And then anything that's addition would be as it is now
And
with
it's my
discussion.
understanding if we review, any one of us would review it and have a question, we can request that it become an item on the.
Yeah, and Alan will still give like financial report
Yeah.
and
Correct.
it'll just be one consent or approval.
Yeah.
One block. Okay, so we'll change that for the next meeting then. So the personnel report, I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Yeah, I'll start.
You may go.
So it's summer, and as we typically do in the summer, we're a little less formal than we are in the school year just because of everything that's happening. So Deb has stepped in even before the end of June, continuing on with getting us ready for the fall, so thank you, Deb. She's been doing the interviews. We are still in need of a social studies teacher for middle school. She's got some interviews lined up for tomorrow. We've gone through multiple rounds with various candidates, so we're still looking to kind of find the right fit. And then this past week, we brought in assistant principals. So we started with roughly 20, maybe more resumes that we received. We narrowed it down to 8 scheduled Zoom interviews. We brought 4 in last week. We narrowed it down to 2 this past weekend. We reached out to references, but also previous employers, because that is something that we are, by Indiana code, needing to do. And then Monday, we made the offer and it was accepted, so Michelle Horniak will be our new assistant principal. She was in this week to do paperwork. She was wrapping up her responsibilities this week at Maryville and had a family vacation planned for this weekend, so she'll be starting officially on Monday. But she's already taking care of her paperwork. She started moving stuff in, using her boys as labor. So we're excited for her. She's been an educator in Maryville for the past 20 years. So lots of experience.
Does she live in this area?
She does live in Chesterton.
Yeah, I say the name.
Her husband works for Cap Trust.
Ah, that's right.
Chris, yeah.
I thought the reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the kids are in high, I don't.
Yeah, Nolan will be in high school and the other one's still, I think, in elementary school.
Well, that may be because they play soccer.
Yeah.
I'm divergent, sorry.
Yeah.
I've seen the name.
Yeah, so we're excited to have that in place, and she's very eager and excited, and we feel really good about her moving
Yes.
forward with us. So.
Good.
Registration started today. We had to delay the online piece because of some data processes with the state. We couldn't sign off on some things until the beginning of July, which prevents like the Power School rollover data. But we had everything ready to go yesterday, was tested out online today, in person tomorrow, and then online will continue through next week. Currently have a wait list for every grade level except for 5th grade also. So feeling good about that potential of reaching 550 and even beyond.
Are you happy,
hopefully.
Alan?
Awesome, yeah.
Even beyond, hopefully.
That's fantastic.
I did a quick check today, and Jen Howell, of course, has become our Power School expert. But one of the pieces you have to do is an address affidavit now, instead of submitting all your address information like we had to last year. And I think my rough numbers had that alone at 240 completed today, which is a good number.
Especially if it's online and people could do it all the way.
Yeah, this morning before we even got here and opened the doors at 7, there was already a good number that completed their
You
registration.
did good advertising for us.
Was that you? Did you kick it off?
The first thing I did this morning.
And you
I
know
don't wanna
how
forget.
easy it was, so.
Ah,
I heard someone ask what the trick was. So some of the summer projects, carpets have been cleaned, the replacement, urinals, toilets, and sinks in the original and middle school building have been completed. Hallways painted, there's still some room touch-ups that are being done. Summer fire tests and pump inspections have been completed. We're working on redoing the fence in that lunch area. As I'm sure you've noticed, the last couple of years with not just the bushes, but just, kids naturally wanting to grab onto it. It's loosened a little bit. So we're gonna be putting posts in the ground behind the, actually stone wall, and then reinforcing it that way, so it'll be more secure. Seesaw and zip line replacements are being worked on. We had 2 dumpsters worth of items removed from the barn in the basement, and some of those preparations of cleaning out usually becomes an annual process. And then we are doing some parking lot work. So David's is gonna be repairing 7 of the big potholes that are around the drive in the dismissal lot. And then also crack filling and seal coat is a separate project at Circle Drive. And then hopefully next year with some of our repair money, and hopefully we have ERTC by then, we'll look at a bigger elaborate paving project. As you might recall, we of course did that brand new parking lot several years ago, and then the staff parking lot. We never did kind of the original part of the dismissal and arrival lot, and so that will need some attention soon. So I think once we have that ERTC money, that might be worth exploring getting that taken care of, because paving can be quite the expense, and even the process of getting people out here to give us numbers is challenging this time of year.
Is he gonna fix the stuff on Canoni too, like on our side of it? Probably. There's like a couple.
Well, I think we are only allowed to do our square.
Oh, so this part of the road down here isn't ours?
The back of the road is. So when the town does work, they'll only do, like when they did the paving of Canoni, they stopped at the corner. They didn't come all the way down.
oh, just that back road.
Just Canoni up to the corner.
Yeah,
They do not do the back,
yeah.
the north or the south, or of course our drive.
But that little
Yeah.
section, or this section, right?
No,
Up to where it ends?
This is
Just
ours,
the
right?
first-
Well, they'll plow down there because they have to get to the pump station. They kind of bequeath the service up to us. So he's doing the pow, that big one on the corner.
Yeah, that
Yes,
one right
yes,
there. Okay.
yeah. So all the way around our circle.
That's-
And then the ones like on the side of the parking lot when you pull into the dismissal lot. And then also, that kind of hole that started going back to the barn and that sort of thing too. So there's 7 of the big ones total. We purchased the Power School Fees plugin, eFunds, which is a payment processor, as we shared before. We have it set up. It seems super easy. We've already got it set up to implement the activity fee. We need to next go in and add the grade level specific textbook fees. And then we will launch that and send that out. So families will have the ability to log into Power School, click a link to access eFunds. They will have to create an eFunds account as well, but then they'll pay directly online. And it will compute all of the accounting reports that we need. It'll separate from the accounting end the activity book amount and the textbook amount because those are different funds. And so we're gonna kick that off in August. And then our hope is that will go really well, and then we can eventually expand that for other purposes like learning experiences. So when a classroom teacher has a learning experience, they can send the notification out. Families will be able to assign that learning experience fee to a group of kids. Me as the parent can log in, see that fee and pay it instead of having to send the money in. So that way it can all be done electronically, which seems to be preferred and easiest for everyone. And then the fees will be taken care of on the parent side of things, just standard transaction costs. So.
Will it send updates, like, you owe this? I'm just thinking as a teacher thing, can they send like a?
Yeah, so the teacher will be able to get
Still owe
reports to
them.
see who has paid, who hasn't
Yeah.
paid, permission slip signed and all of that.
And they can send like a little.
Correct. And then eventually, there is the fundraising piece too. And so we can filter all fundraising funds that way too. So then they can go directly into the development account if that's what we want to do too. So lots of potential here. We'll start small just to get a feel for it and then we can expand on it. Ireland scores have been released. All scores across the state are still below pre-COVID. I think all of our goals last year were just kind of getting kids back in the building and working on towards moving back towards normality. And so Deb and I looked at the preliminary scores, shared the final scores. We'll share them in detail in August with everybody, if not sooner, in email. And that becomes our new starting points. If you remember, even right before COVID hit, we had the new test. So as we've seen, I think that was the 3rd version of state assessment since we've been open. I mean, every time there's a decline and change. So we've got our new starting point and where we're gonna work forward. If you saw any of the documents updated yesterday, we were successful and copywriting the Discovery logo, the Hawks logo, and then just the Compass logo with the words Discovery Charter School next to it. It said like, it said like 10 weeks
8
almost.
months. I thought it was
8 months? It was some ridiculous amount of time when we submitted it.
It was like
And so I got it in the mail, I was like, what is this? Like, it seemed official, but it also looked like it could have been a sales marketing thing. So glad I opened it. And sure enough, an official certificate. So now we just have to decide if we're gonna put the C.
And I did ask
On our
him, and he
logos.
said that we can, but we don't have to.
Yeah.
And he would recommend it for the shirts, but not necessarily for everything.
So I think it cost us $100, so it wasn't even a huge investment.
Yeah, it's so fun to say.
Yeah. So if we catch an unofficial shirt, it's copyrighted.
It only took 13 years.
I started a spreadsheet with community events that I will plan to attend, have attended, and will earmark the ones that I have. So I'll be sharing that with you here in the coming weeks and as we finalize goals. That way you all have access to that too. And then as you see events that maybe I'm not aware of, please feel free to share those too. So that way we can kind of work on improving our presence. I think we've done a great job with marketing, with COVID and everything that's gone around with that. You know, I've been hesitant to attend some of those. We started the year last year where I attended some and then kind of pulled back. But looking forward to kind of being out there more. So that'll be something that I'll send you And like I said, it's been one of the goals as we've gone through these last couple of years anyways. Yeah, and then,
And you did
Deb-
the Portage Market?
well, I had the Jeep loaded up last week.
No, the
And
first one.
I did the first one. Went last week, and then I'm sitting at the train track, and they're like, "Oh, it's canceled because of the weather." And then like 5 minutes later, it was fine. But I was so excited to show off the new tent, which you all saw on display.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then Deb, just some quick updates.
Yep, we have some new staff members. We have 2 kindergarten teachers. Stephanie Crosby is joining us, and then Jenna Phelps is returning. We have a new 4th grade, Heather DeNormady is returning. We have a new SPED K through 4, Caitlin Rich, and we have a new naturalist, Jamie Goldblatt, I believe is how you pronounce her name. This new staff are settling in nicely. Everyone is getting the room set up. We're turning out really well. The PAC purchased us lockers for in here for our 4 classroom aides that have no actually space to keep their stuff. So that'll be nice. I'm finalizing PD week with the STEM, the project-based learning, getting all that organized. Plug-in for attendance we purchased for Power School. Bree, our receptionist, and her and I have worked and got everything organized within Power School, and it will allow us to set rules and thresholds that will generate instead of us actually having to hand go through everything, which was a really time consuming last year. So we've got that all set up, ready to go. And that's about it. Just getting everything ready for the school year.
When we finalized the schedule, I think we talked about maybe inviting the board to one of the days we were gonna have lunch provided. So we'll let you know. So we're providing lunch Wednesday, right? Is what we decided.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Wednesday the 10th,
Yes,
and PAC is doing Thursday the 11th, right?
correct.
So perhaps one of those 2 days we can finalize once we have the schedule finalized, but just to put it on your radars. We thought it'd be good, just invite board members if they wanted to come mingle, introduce themselves to staff while they're having lunch one day.
We have a lot of new board members and quite a few new staff over the last couple of years. So the 10th and
Yeah, one of those 2. We'll finalize it as we finalize
and then working groups, development, we've talked about.
Yeah, so quick rundown on the barn. We got really delayed, like, wasn't until the 3rd week of July that we got the state release of the design. We kept getting back and forth and run around from the state because the local building person wanted us to make sure we reached out to the state because he wasn't sure if the state design was required or not from his perspective. And we were going back and forth with the state because they kept asking questions as if it was a new build, and then they passed us off to another person, and we're like, no, it's not a new build, it's a renovation. So like 3rd week of July is when we finally got design release. And so they're still finalizing, the electricians are in there finalizing. Levco was out there today, so Levco, our tech support, connecting the Wi-Fi, wiring for the PA system, for the speaker. And Hire will be out this week to do the wiring for the alarm, smoke alarm poles, and the key fobbing for the door, because the easiest way to make sure all our staff have access is to connect to the key fob system. And then the big sliding doors have been opened. We're expecting those hopefully by the end of July. So while we initially hoped it would be ready for the first day of school, it probably won't be, but it will be finished this fall. One of the challenges we have come across this week is there was a bathroom in the barn. Had a shower, a toilet, a sink. Now, keep in mind, you'll remember that when we took over the barn, it wasn't exactly in any pristine condition. So when we gutted it, but there was piping is still there. We can't find any sort of septic field. We can't find a wellhead out there. So we're having trouble figuring out where the water comes from and where the water goes. So we have Bloodhound coming out tomorrow, and hopefully they're gonna help us figure out
What's down there?
where that all goes and how that all works so that we are able to have the running sinks out there. If not, then we'll have to kind of explore some alternatives and see what options may lie. So that's kind of another piece to the puzzle, but we'll get there. Yeah, so that's kind of the quick update there. We've talked about some additional sponsorships, so we will be sponsoring some of the CHS activities like we've done in the past. So we're doing Trojan Guard, cross country. We'll look to do soccer, boys and girls soccer.
Michigan City Theater.
I got some information back from them, so I don't know that that's gonna be an option. But just some small sponsorships to keep our name out there and also support other youth groups. And so we'll look to do that again with winter sports at the high school, and then spring sports, just to kind of keep it going. I don't know, we've talked about so much, but. what
Our
else
brick
we're doing?
fundraiser,
The brick
the second
fundraiser will
round
continue.
is started. There's a 25% off coupon code for people through August 30th. And then we will hope to order the second order of bricks in October after fall
Is
fest.
that all on the website?
The information went out to families as part of registration,
Is that the
and
website?
yes, the link to the
Okay.
flyer is.
I missed the deadline last
And then we are working on a development page for the website,
Okay.
just kind of a standalone piece. So we started a draft of that as well.
So, finance.
We did not meet.
No, I think our next meeting will be once we have count
Yeah,
and see if we either have, hopefully, an additional surplus of funds before,
Sounds promising.
more than what we
What
anticipated,
did you do the budget
and discuss some
count?
options.
Sounds promising. Excuse me.
What did you do the budget count?
5.25,
Yep,
5.25.
Wow.
we always do conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, that could be,
We still,
Mhm.
we still
Really
have some
conservative.
breathing room even at 5.25, so that's very encouraging.
yeah. Yeah, so
When
we'll
is
try to
that?
schedule something maybe in,
I'll double check, it's usually the
September or-
second week of September,
okay, maybe early October. Okay.
Usually like the first weekend of February is usually the second.
Policy, we talked about.
Yeah, so those were the items that we discussed. I don't think we had anything else really at the moment.
And then,
So we were here today at registration, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. It was really fun, meeting a lot of new families. I feel like a lot of the new families come out to the in-person. So we were signing up volunteers and answering questions and selling old uniforms and telling them about our upcoming events. So it was a good day, and I think tomorrow will be good too. And then I don't know if I told you, we bought 2 sets of Chromebooks. That was around 18,000, and then those lockers, I'm working on it. You have to set up an account because it's with a health care
Yes.
place,
We
but
searched and searched.
I'm talking to someone and I think she's gonna let us do it, even
Okay.
though we're not a healthcare facility. And then just our upcoming events, we've got the water park going, that's the first Friday evening in August. And then we had already mentioned Fall Fest, but you'll be hearing more about that. We're gonna kind of focus that on getting every bit of the barn, attention on the barn, and all the money for that toward the barn, so we can get that really done this year. And then there's the popcorn parade I mentioned too, that will be during the Valparaiso Popcorn Festival, so everybody would be invited to that as well. That's about it.
Oh, and we purchased some recycled plastic picnic tables to finish the new paper space. So we bought 5, 4 6-foot and 1 8-foot, so they can kind of go 2 and 2 and the longer 8 one in the middle. So enough to seat one class in the event that a class wants to use that space. So those arrived today. It was quite the ordeal watching the gentlemen try to get them off the truck because they were, of course, on a double pallet. And if you've ever seen the lift gates, they're not exactly suited for a double pallet, but I helped them out.
Did you
And going-
video it?
What's that?
Did you take a video?
No. Well, the pallets they stack these on are like decrepit and falling apart. I was like, who loaded this thing?
somebody not getting that.
Mm.
Sounds like it was entertaining.
We also finished tours for development, so we're done with tours and talk districts.
Which were very successful. We had a lot of people. Started to get to the point where you were scared to break hearts, telling them we were full.
And then we'll have the board movie night still pending for August 12th, and I'll let you guys know where. I'm thinking it's gonna be Sunset Hill, but I just have to make sure that we can get, video to work out there.
Do they have a screen that they let you
We
use?
have a screen, so I'm not really about that. I don't think we
Are you
do.
doing it by that barn or
The stage.
the stage?
what I was
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
yeah.
That- It looks like a barn, right?
No, the stage
Oh.
is like where they have they have concerts back
Yeah.
there. Is there a band back there too?
What,
It's
isn't it
the-
red?
I think-
It looks like a barn.
Yeah,
That's what I think. Yeah, we're talking about the same.
Yeah.
I think it's the same building.
Yeah, there's only one.
So people just like bring their chairs and stuff.
There's no building by the stage. The stage is like in the back.
Oh,
So like where the field is.
But
There's like,
it's covered, right?
it's covered.
um,
We're talking about the same.
I think,
I think so, yeah, it's like a covered.
Yeah.
I think when I've seen the stage, I thought it looked like a barn as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not
Maybe
thinking.
it's
From the road, it looks like,
Yeah,
it's red. It gives that anyway.
I tried Coffee Creek, but no one gets back to me, so.
Yeah.
if you didn't ask, maybe ask them if they have a screen projector, because like,
Okay,
the Portage Pavilion that we use for graduation, they have a projector, so that just was an option I think we didn't need.
okay.
So because they rent the space out, they may have that equipment too.
And then the other place I was gonna call just before we committed to that was the Portage Parks. They do it at Founders Park and they have movie nights there, so that might be a good, and we don't really do anything in Portage, so that might be a good place to
I
have
feel like
it too.
Hawthorne Park did too in Porter. I think they had movie nights. I've not been, but,
Hmm.
oh, no? Okay.
Okay. So, and then August meeting, August
There's
17th.
a asphalt festival there.
Gotcha.
Oh, I wanted to recognize
Oh,
Jen Howell. So I think the best way to describe Jen is when she introduced herself to Michelle yesterday. She called herself the Jill of all trades, which is extremely accurate. I mean, because she does, of course, the applications. She takes care of a lot of the lunch processes and working with them. And she's, because of her tech background and her interest in tech, she's quickly become kind of our Power School expert, and she's expressed interest in going to Power School trainings. So we can be more self-reliant for Power School than the contractor that we work with. And then on top of that, she kind of assists us also with the development and the social media presence too. So I just wanted to recognize and acknowledge and make sure we all appreciate and understand kind of all the different directions she goes and assists us with, so.
in every junction. She'll take care of kids.
She's got great ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's blossomed that position a little bit.
Any other recognitions? Congratulations.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, so August meeting, August 17th at 6:30. Will we have,
That's the first
any
one.
other meeting?
We'll let you know.
All right.
You guys are at the first day of school, you don't mind?
I think it's always like that, right?
No.
It's always registration and board
It
meeting.
was last.
It's always first day of school and board meeting. It's always board meeting, graduation.
Right.
Yeah, August starts to get pretty.
I don't want to.
Wow.
Busy,
You don't want
busy.
to-
Always.
Really, I mean, I want a little more summer.
All right, we're all
Yeah, I'm a fan of longer and